Medical clinic beds, or all the more precisely, the absence of emergency clinic beds turned into an issue not long after COVID-19 arrived at the United States. It bodes well, as medical clinics aren't in the matter of taking care of a worldwide pandemic, they're there to treat and care for patients under typical working conditions. That works fine and dandy when the world isn't experiencing a pandemic, yet in urban communities like New York City and Los Angeles, a deficiency of emergency clinic beds because of the flood of COVID-19 patients caused two unmistakable problems. There weren't sufficient beds for COVID-19 patients, and there were basically no beds accessible to individuals experiencing everything else. Individuals requiring medical procedure, chemo treatment, and each other issue people go to the clinic for were running into an absence of limit in treating them. To battle the issue, the USN sent two ships, the USNS Comfort and USNS Mercy, to New York City and Los Angeles, individually. The two vessels were intended to facilitate the wait by giving 1,000 medical clinic beds to patients not experiencing COVID-19, however since they have shown up, the USNS Comfort has taken on patients experiencing the disease. Shots like this one demonstrating the Statue of Liberty in the closer view of the USNS Comfort spread everywhere throughout the internet as it moved toward the port. The appearance demonstrated a demonstration of help and an indication of expectation in the days to come. A term scarcely any individuals outside of the social insurance industry heard before the emergency, N95, has become one nearly everybody around the globe currently knows. N95 veils are hardy expendable covers fit for halting the spread of COVID-19 and numerous other airborne pathogens, which is one reason they immediately got fundamental for the world's social insurance laborers. Tragically, they got increasingly hard to track down as the infection spread, which is the reason such huge numbers of specialists and medical caretakers ended up reusing them for any longer than they typically would have. Supply gives aside, N95 veils function admirably in light of the fact that they sit cozily on the face, and aren't the most agreeable things to wear for broadened time frames. During the time of March, individuals started sharing photographs of what they resembled in the wake of working for a considerable length of time and days while wearing the covers. Countenances wounded around the eyes and mouth turned into a typical sight as increasingly more medicinal services laborers participate with their own shots. The photographs don't simply show wounded and tired individuals, they show the people dealing with the cutting edges to battle the sickness, a large number of whom worked for long 12, 18, and 24-hour shifts. During a pandemic where governments are advising the entirety of their residents to self-seclude themselves in their homes, it immediately became obvious that there was a sizable populace that couldn't follow that direction. The destitute are at more serious danger of coming down with the ailment. However, that is not exclusively the consequence of their resting outside, it's generally because of their closeness with each other. Regardless of whether they are in the city or in covers, vagrants frequently wind up stacked intimately with each other, and that makes them defenseless to COVID-19, and it likewise makes it almost certain that they will contaminate others. Exponential disease is perhaps the best concern where COVID-19 is concerned, and in urban communities like Las Vegas, the manner in which the city has needed to manage it made worldwide news. Safe houses had to close in the midst of the emergency, leaving upwards of 500 in the city. The city painted lattices on the upper parking garage of the Cashman Center, with each container being implied as a spot for one individual each to rest. Lamentably, all well-meaning goals being what they are, individuals online called attention to that the squares were excessively near one another, discrediting the requirement for social removing, which further spread the picture to others as it got viral. As the United States government started to take the looming danger of COVID-19 genuinely, it became evident that individual defensive gear and ventilators would have been hard to find. Accounts of government reserves containing a huge number of unusable ventilators because of upkeep contract terminations and admonitions by authorities to constrain PPE to individuals who were showing side effects started springing up everywhere throughout the internet. Governors were set to offer against each other for hardware from providers, and some emergency clinic laborers had to reuse veils for as long as 7 days at a time. Supplies were an issue. However, a few nations that weren't at first hit as hard as the United States did what they could to help. Russia filled a plane with provisions and sent them to the United States, which brought about this photo that circled online for quite a long time. The airplane was sent to the States following a one-on-one phone call between both countries' pioneers. President Putin made the motion with the thought that should the US see a drop in cases while Russia ends up managing an ascent, the States will respond if need be. COVID-19 has influenced a huge number of individuals everywhere throughout the world. However, the most compromised bunch isn't the old and immunocompromised, it's the emergency clinic laborers who battle against the infection consistently. Everywhere throughout the world, specialists, medical caretakers, and other human services laborers spend long days and much longer evenings watching out for the wiped out and biting the dust with almost no close-to-home defensive gear protecting them. One of the principal specialists to tumble to the malady, however not the first, and unfortunately, not the last, was Dr. Li Wenliang of Wuhan, China. Dr. Li was the informant, who sounded the underlying alert over an infection he had been seeing that was like SARS. He was reprimanded by the Communist Party of China for offering bogus remarks on the internet. After getting the infection he was battling against, he snapped this picture from his emergency clinic bed. He passed on February 7, and this photo became famous online. Soon after his passing, the Communist Party of China gave a serious conciliatory sentiment for its reprimand of Dr. Li. However, at that point, the infection had spread outside of the nation's fringes. Not long after China started executing huge isolate gauges in Wuhan and different regions, the numbers being accounted for from the nation demonstrated a decrease in cases and passings. As those numbers started falling, they soar in places like Italy, which was one of the hardest hit countries outside of China during the time of March. As social removing turned into the standard in Italy, its residents wound up segregated in their homes with little to do other than stress over what was occurring in the emergency clinics and simply outside their doors. In an endeavor to battle the separation and feeling of fear many were encountering, individuals everywhere throughout the country went to their galleries and started making music with each other. These melodic glimmer crowds met up all over Italy, and on March 13, individuals everywhere throughout the nation went to their overhangs to all in all sing the national song of devotion, Inno di Mameli, in a demonstration of solidarity during the emergency. This image taken by Maro Cinquetti shows a lady singing from her overhang, and in the event that you haven't seen this one, there are a huge number of photos and recordings of individuals singing to and with each other everywhere throughout the internet. One scene no one needs to be helped to remember when recalling this emergency years from now is any that shows the cost the infection has taken on the individuals. The absolute hardest hit urban areas immediately discovered that there wasn't simply going to be an absence of clinic beds for the wiped out, there was likewise going to be a wait on funeral homes, coroners, and undertakers. Everybody was so centered around the requirement for ventilators and emergency clinic beds, hardly any idea of what to do when the bodies started accumulating. Luckily, there were some who prepared, and that carries us to the image included here. This shot, taken by John Ming Kilo, shows bodies being stacked into refrigerated trucks outside a New York City emergency clinic. NYC was one of the hardest hit American urban areas in the beginning of the emergency, and its clinics immediately arrived at limit on various administrations, which incorporate the capacity of the dead. The Brooklyn Medical Clinic is one of numerous that have gone to such measures to store bodies, and the city has many. By April 8, in excess of 4,000 individuals kicked the bucket in New York City alone. While the year 2020 may stand out forever similar to the one where a worldwide pandemic cleared over the globe, more individuals will probably recall it with two words: social removing. That is a term not many had ever heard or considered utilizing outside of the infrequent thoughtful person, yet with COVID-19 spreading exponentially all through worldwide populaces, social separating turned into the standard. Social orders, where individuals regularly welcomed each other with a generous handshake or a kiss on each cheek, end up remaining as a long way from each other as possible. This picture was taken in Sri Lanka by Dinaka Lianawat outside a supermarket in Colombo. The individuals in the image can be seen wearing covers, and are standing around 1 meter separated. Most governments and the WHO are advising individuals to twofold that separation, however it's not constantly conceivable, leaving numerous in risky, yet urgently needing supplies. Sri Lanka put a check-in time on its residents preceding this photo, however loosened up it for a brief time frame following a respite in recently detailed cases. In the Lebanese city of Beirut, the Corniche Promenade remains as one of the top traveler goals. There is an oceanside promenade fixed with palm trees and an excellent perspective on the ocean, where a great many guests and local people can be seen appreciating the zone consistently. Ordinarily, the site is clamoring with movement, including individuals continuing strolling visits to visiting the neighborhood cafes, however wasn't saved from the flare-up, and during the time of March and into April, Corniche Promenade has been a phantom town. This photo taken by Mohammed Azakir shows the well-known promenade totally without human action of any sort. Gone are the joggers, the walkers, the buskers, the popular cart sellers, and every other person who might regularly be seen on an in any case delightful day. The atypical shot of Corniche Promenade is the after effect of an administration-commanded check-in time, leaving numerous on lockdown inside their homes. Sites like this are regular everywhere throughout the world as the COVID-19 emergency declines, and this is only one of numerous comparable pictures discovered everywhere throughout the internet. Chances are, regardless of whether you are not an individual from the Islamic religion, you are aware of the Great Mosque and Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. It's the site of the Hajj, a journey that each Muslim must do at any rate once in their lives on the off chance that they can do as such. The site regularly observes upwards of 5 million individuals during the Dhu al-Hijjah on the Islamic schedule. In 2020, it falls between July 22 and August 19 in 2020, and on the off chance that the world comes back to any similarity to regularity by, at that point, a huge number of individuals will be seen visiting the blessed site. This picture was taken on March 5, and keeping in mind that that is not a date of a specific hugeness on the Islamic schedule, the Great Mosque normally observes a great many guests on some random day. It because void was because of the administration's structure that it be totally cleaned and sterilized, inspired by a paranoid fear of spreading COVID-19. It opened the following day, yet at the same time observed far less guests than ordinary. One explanation the numbers were low was on the grounds that the kingdom restricted remote guests from entering the nation on February 27. Thanks for watching and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.